Hey everyone. So today's topic is feedback. This is a question I'm asked a lot. Obviously, it's a tough time at the moment. Certain candidates are going forward for lots of jobs. There's lots of competition, and people don't mind if they don't get a role that they want, as long as they come away with something of that experience, and that is feedback. So, what are some of the issues as to why you don't receive feedback? Well, let's take an example of you've attended an interview and you aren't progressed to the next stage, but you'd like some feedback. Here's some issues. Feedback has been the most challenging part of my role personally. As a recruiter, I'm always chasing clients for feedback. And what happens is, say you're a candidate, you meet with a creative director, the interview goes a certain way, and then you would like some feedback. What happens is I contact HR. If I'm lucky enough to speak to the creative director that interviewed you, I can get you feedback, because I can just have them on the phone and I'll say, what are your thoughts? What can I go back and say to the candidate? But when you have some barriers, which are HR then chasing them, and then that then getting over to me, I've got an idea. It's a suggestion. Why don't we normalize asking for feedback at interviews? Okay, so hear me out. It's a bit of a bold thing to suggest, but it makes sense. You're there in front of the person that's making these decisions. There's going to be a reason why they may or may not take you to the next stage. Why don't we normalize a conversation where we say at the end, hey, before we wrap up, I'd just like to ask, do you have any feedback for me, please? I would really appreciate it. As creatives, we're so polite. We don't like hurting people's feelings, do we? And sometimes feedback, especially as a creative, that's really, sometimes with your work, you feel like you're putting yourself on the line. It's a very vulnerable space to be in, to ask for feedback. And the interviewer, normally if they are a creator themselves, they feel an awkwardness critiquing you. But the only way we can grow, learn, and develop is by taking on feedback. Don't forget, feedback is subjective. One thing in a portfolio someone might love, another person might not respond to as well. So feedback is subjective and has to be taken with a pinch of salt. But why don't, as I said, we normalize it? You just ask at the end, do you have any feedback for me? That would be great. And then and there, that person's able to answer that for you whilst you're over the Zoom call or at coffee or in the meeting room. Because what I want a lot of creatives and candidates to understand is the reason why normally you don't get feedback is that creative director will go back, they'll be pulled into a load of meetings, and then they'll be off. They'll go away, they'll be dealing with their day job. A lot of pressure has been put on companies within the pandemic to bounce back. So a lot of agencies are running on slim teams, which is why after that interview, it can be harder than ever to then gather that feedback at a later date. So I just think then and there, if we can, I'd love you to all to comment on this. Clients, please do. Creators, please comment as well. I'm just always trying to think of solutions at all the time as to how can we make the industry a bit better and more efficient. Because feedback is the number one thing we all need to keep developing and improving. And then if you can take something on board from an interview and then take that to the next interview and improve upon that, then that might open another door for you. So there's one thing. Another thing is in regards to feedback on applications. This is totally different. Now, if I let you into what a lot of my clients are saying to me at the moment, is that there are a lot of candidates applying for roles that they're not suitable for. That's why people come to individuals like myself, because they've been awash with applications from people that aren't right. This is problematic in two ways. One, it's problematic for you as a candidate, as a creative, because if you're applying to certain roles, even ones you really don't want or you might not quite be good for, don't apply, because all that happens is you're probably going to receive a rejection from that company, and the rejection will probably be you won't hear back. And that will make you feel even worse. And then when you're speaking to your friends or your family and you're like, oh, I've received 200 rejections this week, and 150 of those, I didn't even want the job anyway. And that makes you feel worse. So I always say you want one job, so only apply to the companies that you think you're the right fit for, and then tailor your application. Now, considering you want feedback, you're more likely to get some form of response from a client if you really take the time to tailor your application to them, and more likely to be able to be in a position to ask for feedback. Now, companies, unfortunately, would need to hire someone full-time to go through every single CV and portfolio and say, thank you for getting in touch, but you're not right because of this, this and this, or this and this, or this and this. And unfortunately, they can't do that. It doesn't make them a bad company at all. It just means they're advertising for a job of a specific skill set of what they need. They have to go through lots of people that aren't what they need, and they shouldn't have to get in touch with everyone that applies. It's not appropriate with feedback as to why they're not right. So that would be my main thing. Only apply for roles that you are suitable for. And if you don't get feedback with your rejection, then ask around, show your CV and portfolio to friends, get some feedback from them if you can, especially people you know that might be in like senior level roles. Approach someone as a mentor in the industry, offer to take people out for coffee. If you want someone to help you out, rather than just getting in touch and saying, hey, can you look at this for me and give them feedback, that's quite an ask. It's quite demanding on someone's time, to just, you know, jump into their day and be like, hey, do something for me. So maybe say, would you mind if we grabbed a coffee sometime? Or, you know, show them that you appreciate their time when you're asking for feedback as well. And be empathetic about the fact that a lot of people are quite stretched at the moment, quite afraid with their mental health in this time. So if a mentor does take time to help you, that's them working on quite limited resources within their own world of all their own plates they're spinning to help another human out as well. It's not a given. You know, senior level people don't have to help juniors. If they do, that's amazing. Like, of course, we should encourage senior level people helping juniors, because that's how we make the industry a better place for all. But it's not an expectation that should be put on everyone's shoulders to do that. But there are so many organisations out there and incredible groups that have been created by really kind people in the industry, such as Young Creative Council. They do crits all the time. There's loads of stuff all on the internet that you can look up to get feedback for yourself, but you have to do some digging to find that. So that would be my advice, is at the interview, get a bit of, you know, polite, cheeky courage and ask for feedback then and there on the spot. Clients, I would encourage any of you that are watching this video, maybe take it upon yourselves to say, could I offer you some feedback? Because you're really helping someone. In this time-starved time of life, you know, in this pandemic, we've realised the most important and valuable thing is our time. A lot of people are wanting to work from home more, be with their families more. Like, time is precious. If someone shares their time for you to attend an interview with your company, or their time to interview you for their company, this is a mutual respect of time that's been shared between two people. And the best way to honour that is, if it doesn't turn into a job or a placement, to just give a little bit of feedback. So that's my advice there. I hope that's really helped some people as well. I know there's been lots of frustrations in this current market that feedback hasn't been delivered. If you complete a design task for a company, you take your precious time to work on a task, especially for free, you really do deserve some time. You know, any clients that are watching this, if someone's done a design task for you, please give them feedback. Like, it's important. It's important for your brand as a business as well to give people feedback, especially if they've done something like that for you. So I hope that helps. 3 things I always say. So I get people approach me several times a day asking for feedback, or they'll say really something vague to me, like, Nikki, can you tell me how to set up a podcast, or can you tell me how to do my portfolio, or can you tell me how to, like, I've created as many resources as possible to help everyone, so you can just Google that and maybe see what I've put out in the industry first that you can watch or listen to. But I always say to people, okay, ask me 3 questions. I would say if you're reaching out to someone in the industry you want advice from, approach them 3 questions, because asking for a general all-round, how can I be a creative director, that's one big vast question. But maybe ask something specific about which agencies are good to apply to, or really drill down to the detail of your experience and what you might want to know specifically, and make sure it's not anything you could Google as well, that it's so specific to that person. That's why you're reaching out to that individual in the industry for advice or feedback. And then just ask a specific question you really need to know. And I tell you what, if you send a lovely opening message, thank them for their time, praise something about their work that you've seen, show you respect their time by asking 3 or 1 or 2 specific questions, 9 out of 10 times they are way more likely to get back to you. I hope that helps everyone. I'll have more videos coming out within the next few weeks. Comment on topics that you'd like me to cover, and I will get onto IR35 at some point. The reason I haven't done that yet, just to be honest with you, is every time I go into the research, it's so up in the air, IR35. Like, I'm speaking to clients and candidates, and I feel like we need the dust to settle a little bit into it. Plus, I'm not a solicitor. I'm not an accountant. Every time I speak to an accountant or a solicitor to get IR35 advice, they say to me, well, Nikki, you are a recruiter, you need to be careful to not be advising too much on this. So that's the only reason I haven't, is because I'm not legally trained, really. All I can do is discuss certain things, but for me to actually put a video out, I've got to be so careful on that stuff. But I can skirt around different details, and I promise you at some point within a month or so where there is more clarity. There's so much IR35 stuff out there. There's people doing it way better than me. There's newsletters you can subscribe to, and I'll share some links to those at some point. But yeah, good luck with your feedback and the job search for everyone that's looking at the moment, and take care of yourself.